The Chiefs are Super Bowl champions again. What it means for your Cincinnati Bengals, how far away the Bengals are from winning their first ever Super Bowl. Plus, hear from Joe Burrow on Patrick Mahomes, his health, and much, much more right now on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien, and this is Enter the Jungle. Catch us every single Tuesday at 8 Eastern on the YouTube channel Cincinnati Bengals Talk and weekly on Bally Sports. And as always, we're part of the Big Play Network. Shout out to Big Play and shout out to you for supporting us. We're not going anywhere all offseason long, and it's a big offseason for the Cincinnati Bengals as they try to get to the mountaintop, to get the peak, to the spot that we saw Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs get to in Las Vegas on Sunday night in Super Bowl 58. And Andrew Fox Miller nailed his prediction. He'll join me coming up, and later in the show, we'll get a chance to, well, crush me for picking the 49ers and being dead wrong. But before we do that, let's get to Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow did do a few interviews while in Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58. And he was holding water bottles with that right hand and didn't have as much of a wrap or brace on that wrist. So I think that's positive news for number 9. But let's be honest here. When it comes to Joe Burrow, when it comes to the future of the Bengals, it's all about, can they get past a Kansas City Chiefs team that no one has gotten past in the playoffs except for Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow talked with Sports Illustrated last week about Patrick Mahomes and knowing that the Chiefs are the team to beat.
We've had great battles over the last several years. We've seen each other in the AFC Championship game twice, and so we have a lot of respect for each other. If they win it, next season is a new season. We know that they're the team to beat every single year because they're going to be year in and year out a team that's going to compete for a Super Bowl. So we want to be where they're at right now. So we have to go and knock them off their throne.
I love the mindset from Joe Burrow there. We have to go there and knock them off their throne. And Andrew, just hearing that, it's kind of funny because during the season, a lot of people, at least on social media, Bengals fans were looking at the Bengals AFC North record and saying, oh, well, the Bengals aren't built to win the North. They were built to beat the Chiefs. Well, I'll say this going into the offseason, and we'll get into needs and stuff in a bit, but I still want them to be built to beat the Chiefs, because if they don't beat the Chiefs, they're not going to get to where they need to go or where they want to go or where everyone wants them to go, which is obviously the Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl next year in New Orleans.
Exactly, right? Like, this is the team to beat. I don't care what you think about the Chiefs, how you feel about the Chiefs, like, here it is, and this is the team that you need to be built to beat, to your point. And honestly, I'm not gonna sit here and pick apart everything that happened this past season with the Bengals, but, like, I think they are, because Jake Browning wasn't too far from beating them without Joe Burrow. So things are looking pretty good, provided they can get a healthy Joe Burrow heading into next season. They're still that team that I honestly think the Chiefs are very nervous to face anytime it comes up.
I agree with you. And I think the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl this year is a reminder. And I don't even want to make it about how close the Bengals are, even though we'll hear from Burrow again in a second about that. But to me, I look at the Chiefs and I see a flawed team. I see wide receivers that are slightly faster than Andrew Fox Miller. I see skill guys that when Isaiah Pacheco isn't playing at an elite level, Rashee Rice is still figuring it out. Mecole Hardman was a cast off, and I know he caught the game winner in the Super Bowl. But my point is, it's not like he had a ton of weapons. That offensive line, they could have used Orlando Brown Jr. They were missing him. They needed a stud left tackle this year. My point is the Chiefs are flawed, and yet they're the back-to-back champions. Everyone's talking about them like they're a dynasty, and they've won 3 of 5. If they're a dynasty, they're a dynasty. This isn't enter the Arrowhead. All right, this is enter the jungle. So I don't need to discuss whether or not they're a dynasty. But what I will say is the Bengals might not need to fix every single flaw and be a perfect roster this offseason to win the Super Bowl next year, because they do have an elite quarterback. They will have elite weapons still, and they should be in it. Now, do they need to address certain issues? Absolutely. But I think the Chiefs are the perfect example. Elite quarterback, high-end coaching, don't stub your toe in key moments like the 49ers did, and you could look up and you could win a Super Bowl even if you're a flawed team.
And even with all that said, there were so many instances of their defense, talking about Kansas City, carrying them further into this postseason with Patrick Mahomes not putting up like elite numbers by any means. So yeah, speaking of Bengals, that's one area I kept spinning in my head as you were kind of going through that list. Can't fix everything, can't fix everything. But I feel like that was the one deficiency everyone was nervous about heading into the postseason was how's this defense going to be able to stop the run against these offenses? How's the defense going to be able to contain these opposing teams with Jake Browning under center? Burrow maybe could have done it, but that's a big deficiency. I'd love to see that get addressed.
And we'll get into major needs, what the Bengals should do. I think we all agree trenches, but we'll have to make a pick coming up later in the show. But Jamar Chase said something last week, and I wrote about it for All Bengals. And I think a lot of people feel this way. We've talked about it on Enter the Jungle as well. It's simple. If Burrow hadn't gotten hurt, would they have still made a run, even though they were flawed? And Chase said, well, of course. Chase was a no-brainer with that. Joe Burrow, a little more conservative, says, not so fast. It's much, much easier said than done.
I mean, it's easy to say. It's harder to do, right? We've been there. We've done that, but who knows how it would have played out? You know, I was confident in where we were headed and the direction that we were going within the season. We were getting better every week, and so it came at a tough time, but it's given me an opportunity to get back, get all focus on my training, get all parts of my body to where they need to be. And so when the wrist is right, my body will be in tip-top shape. So I'm excited to get back out there and go on this run next year.
Burrow's health is such a topic. And by the way, both of those clips courtesy of Sports Illustrated. Burrow sat down with SI. And to me, with Joe Montana, of course, as you see Joe there as well. The other Joe, which as Patrick Mahomes inches closer to Joe Montana historically. I think that the health factor, it's coming up so much now. I'll just bring it up. How worried are you about Joe Burrow's health? How concerned when you think of the Bengals and this coming season now and free agency and offseason needs? Where does, man, I hope he's healthy. Where does that rank or where is that in your mind?
It ranks and bury it so deep that you don't even address it and you completely ignore it and you focus on all the minutia because that's obviously the key to all of this, right? And there's a certain element too of we only know what we know. We can only control what we can control, and you got to go off of Joe's word in this case. But Joe's going to say what he's going to say. And by the way, I know everyone is playing what ifs. If Burrow was out there this past season, Joe clearly doesn't like that game. I mean, like the only what if Joe's playing in that clip is like, what if I'm not wearing a Guinness quarter zip and having to put up with this interview? That's Joe right there. Like, so, but I think he answered it well. And yeah, I bury it because I don't want to address it at all.
I think Joe, if you gave him truth serum, would say, heck yeah. Heck yeah, we would have been there. And that Chiefs team isn't the Chiefs team we're used to having to face, right? This is not the best Chiefs team we've seen. I think the team the Bengals beat in the AFC Championship game, for example, that Chiefs team, I think they're better than this year's team. But it just goes to show, flaws and all, you can still get it done. Patrick Mahomes deserves credit. The Chiefs deserve a ton of credit. And right now, it does seem like everyone is getting credit for being an elite quarterback. All the top stars, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes. Has the NFL forgotten about Joe? He answers that question coming up next. Welcome back into Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every Tuesday night here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk Weekly on Bally Sports. And Joe Burrow has gone under the radar, Andrew, since becoming a casualty of the 2023 season, injuring that right wrist, undergoing season-ending surgery. And it was Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are the new Brady Manning. Lamar Jackson wins MVP. Obviously, there are a bunch of high-end quarterbacks. For my money, Joe Burrow is still number 2 when it comes to best quarterbacks in the league behind Patrick Mahomes. But I think there is a good argument that could be made in favor of some other guys because it is that close. But Burrow was asked by Sports Illustrated if he feels forgotten about with his injury and all of these other guys getting so much publicity and having so much success.
Well, that's part of getting injured. That's part of the game. That's, football moves on whether you're out there playing or not. And so I'm solely focused on getting this injury right and coming back to perform the way that I need to put our team in position to get where we want to get to.
Football moves on. That's like a brutal reality. And when I heard him say that, I was like, whoa. Because it does. I think you know it, but when you hear it, I don't know. I was like, man, it's good perspective that I think we all know, but hearing it from someone like Joe, it's true. Football does move on.
Football moves on. The stories that are being told, the narrative, you're not part of it. That's got to be difficult, especially if you're trying to not only prove something but build some sort of a legacy. But I think Joe's obviously, as Joe does, looking at it very practically. Clearly, though, based off the discussions we've had on this show and based off what just the dialogue happening out with Bengals fan base, like Joe has not been forgotten about, and he's been part of the discussion even when he's not out on the field because he can't be. So yeah, a lot riding heading out into this season with what we expect or it kind of sort of envision Joe's going to bring when he takes that field again.
And one thing that you said earlier in the show, and I'll make it very, very clear. One franchise that has not forgotten about Joe Burrow, and obviously the Bengals haven't, but the Kansas City Chiefs sure as hell haven't. The Kansas City Chiefs would prefer to not have to deal with Joe Burrow in the playoffs every year. Both AFC Championship games, they were just fights. They were fights. They were very, very tough, down to the wire in both games, obviously. And when you have a quarterback that can go toe to toe in the ring with Patrick Mahomes, there aren't many, right? Brock Purdy played well on Sunday night, but late in that game, Mahomes was making throws and making plays that Purdy wasn't for whatever reason, whether it's Kyle Shanahan or whatever the case is, he wasn't. And I think Purdy was playing pretty well, but you could go and look at most of these matchups, and that's the case. Lamar Jackson against Mahomes, it was never really close. There was never really the idea, and I don't mean score-wise, I mean who was performing at a higher level in those moments and doing what his team needed him to do to win. Burrow is that guy that always seems to be able to do that. And so, yeah, I think that this injury, one, hopefully this is the last time we're talking about an injury for Burrow of this magnitude. Two, hopefully in a few months, we get that video. Notifications are on, Bengals, where they posted on social media of him just throwing the ball. We're going to see it this offseason. It's going to happen. And now that it is officially the offseason, that's sort of the next step when it comes to Joe Burrow is seeing him throw again.
So you think Bengals are going to be the ones that push that out there? Is it Jordan Palmer? What are we going to do? Where are we going to first find it out? Is Joe going to post it? What do you think?
Oh, it could be Joe. It could be Joe, especially it would be like a screen grab or a photo of him clearly throwing with a, can't get rid of me that easy. I think he's already used that one.
He's going to find another movie analogy. He already did Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, he did Return of the Jedi. Maybe it'll be something with Marvel. I don't know, but yeah, I could certainly see that. He's a big Spider-Man fan. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but it'll be something like that. And sign me up. I'm here for it. I know Bengals fans are here for it as well. Something else you're here for is trenches. You want the Bengals to get better in the trenches. What position specifically should they prioritize? Andrew and I will make our picks coming up next. Will the Bengals prioritize right tackle, defensive line? Welcome back in to Enter the Jungle. That's a question that a lot of people are asking. He's Andrew Fox-Miller, and I'm James Rapien. And Andrew, to me, it's an interesting balance because I look at defensive tackle, I look at right tackle with Jonah Williams set to leave in free agency, most likely, maybe not, but probably. And huge weaknesses in both areas. I think you need to add to the room in both areas, in free agency and the draft. Which one is your bigger priority? Which one would you spend the most money at if you could this offseason?
So I'm going to answer your question with a question to you because this is where I'm struggling, which is from a draft perspective. We could sit here and say offensive tackle, offensive tackle, offensive tackle, with the knowledge that we haven't really had a lot of big hits, successes with tackles, offensive linemen that get developed from the draft on this team. That could be circumstantial coincidence, whatever. I don't know. So my question to you is, does that factor into it? Or are we just simply looking at, hey, between these two positions, best player available, let's go?
I think there are a bunch of factors, and that's certainly one of them is their track record. What I would say is they stink at drafting defensive tackles too. So they they haven't been great in that department. Now, are some of these dudes can they play? I think Cam Sample was certainly a good draft pick, but it's tough to find these long-term defensive tackles that they've drafted in recent years too. So it is a factor, but I think it's been such a weakness on both sides for whatever reason that it can't be the deciding factor. And it is a deep offensive tackle class. And when I mean deep, I mean there could be a really good offensive tackle available at 18 because most really good tackles get taken in the top 10.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think either way, you look at either of these positions, you mentioned free agency. We've talked about it before. You're going to have to do something there, and that will obviously determine a bit of the outcome of this. But I don't like where we are prior to free agency in that it feels like we're drafting off a need in either scenario until that gets addressed. And I understand that free agents, it's not sustainable. You can't just keep grabbing free agents and paying them to come in and fill these spots. But honestly, they kind of need to right now. And then in the draft, whatever positions there, whoever's best available, I'd love both in 1 and 2, whichever order. Give me the best one available at 18, and then we'll flip it on round 2, and then we're going to have to develop. But free agency, I think, is so critical at those positions this year as far as what decisions they make and who they add. It's huge.
It is, and they better spend. That's it. You got to spend. You got to spend at both of them. If they want to avoid having to draft a tackle that needs to play right away, an offensive tackle, the only guy I really see that they could sign that to me is plug and play, you don't have to consider drafting one right away, is Michael Onwenu from the Patriots. After that, you could say Trent Brown or Jermaine Illuminor. Those guys are fine, and I like Illuminor. That's probably who I would go with, but that guy is not keeping you from picking an offensive tackle at 18. If you want to free up your board, you can sign one of those guys, but if the right tackle's there, you're taking them anyway. And some of these defensive tackles, there's a couple kids from Oklahoma. There's one from Illinois, and we will get into specifics on a ton of prospects coming up this offseason and over the next few months. If they could get one of those guys, that would be huge as well. I would spend at both spots. If I had to prioritize, it's all about Joey B. Keeping Joe Burrow upright. If they can do that, then I think they can go a long way. And part of that is tweaking the offense, which I think they will do. At the same time, this idea that they're not going to be a pass-first offense, they're going to be, and you have to be in this day and age if you're going to win big in the NFL. Pass-first offenses win. The proof is in the pudding, including the Chiefs over the past couple of years, even with their weapons issues this past season. Guess what? They were a pass-first offense in the Super Bowl. And, well, we know what happened on Sunday night. That being said, since we know what happened on Sunday night, you were right. I was wrong. Let's get to it. Andrew Fox Miller takes his victory lap coming up next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. And Andrew, the floor is yours because last week I sat here and I said San Francisco by 3. And you know what? For about, I'll be honest, all of Sunday night, I was confident that my prediction was right. Even late, I thought it was going to work. I thought I was going to nail it. And, well, it didn't. It was the Chiefs' year. And you were the first one to let me know that you predicted the Chiefs. So this is your chance. Victory lap me. Do your victory lap for Patty Mahomes and company.
Okay, 2 things. 1, I take no pleasure in the Chiefs winning this. It's not like I was rooting for them to win. I just felt like that's how it was going to go down. It seemed inevitable in a way. 2, you fail to include, when we talk about victory lap, the complete and utter you were embarrassed for me as I was saying it. It was just shame just oozing out of you. Like, I can't believe I'm sharing the same screen with this person right now as he's putting up this horrendous take on the Chiefs winning. So
I think I was right here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll flash up the clip.
By the way, no one shocked Patrick Mahomes won.
Of course.
But I look at it and I'm like, man, Because now it's dynasty talk and it's all this stuff. And it's like, oh, it's the evil emperor versus Joe Burrow. Can he slay that whole narrative starts, right? That's why everyone was team NFC a few weeks ago in Cincinnati. And I get it. And so, look, you got Andrew Whitworth, by the way, saying that Mahomes is the Michael Jordan of football, which
Yeah.
that's what happens. And I knew that was happening. And I looked at the 49ers and I thought they were the better team. I still kind of do.
Yeah.
But when you have the better coach and you have the better quarterback, you always have a chance. Always. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they're a heck of a combo, and they're really, really tough to beat. And so, to your point, and this is probably a Super Bowl betting lesson, the better quarterback, the better coach usually wins. And they found a way to win on Sunday night.
By the way, Andrew Whitworth just now tweeted Andrew Fox Miller equals Super Bowl picks Michael Jordan. That's what he put.
Oh, yeah. That'd be the day. That'd be the day. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Your vertical is just about 52 inches less. It's probably similar to Michael Jordan's 10 years from now.
You're exploring this analogy. We're going deep. What are we doing talking about verts with Jordan?
Just letting you know where you're at. Andrew was right about the Super Bowl, and clearly he's wearing his Chiefs pom-poms. I, on the other hand, not going to do that for obvious reasons. But hopefully you enjoyed today's show. Hit that subscribe button on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Check us out weekly on Valley Sports. Shout out to the Big Play Network. And until next time, for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching. Enter the jungle.